welcome to For the Love of Nature, a podcast where we tell you everything you need to know about nature and probably more than you wanted to know. I'm Laura Fawks Lapole.
And I'm Katy Holloway, and today we're talking about how people have looked to nature for medicinal healing for, well, like pretty much forever, essentially. So this one I'm excited for this one.
I think this one is going to be lots of new information for people, although they might have heard of most of these plants before.
Yeah, just not, and maybe not in some of the ways that, because one of mine is pretty obvious and pretty well used, but not in the sense that maybe you would think it would be. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. It's like an obvious one, but it's not too bad. Do we want to skip nature news and just go straight into this one?
Only because this one's kind of long.
It is pretty long. We'll try to keep it under an hour for everybody, but
we don't want to melt too many brains.
Melt too many brains. Hit heads.
Speaking of, do you care if I start then?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, actually,
wait. Do you have like a brain melting one?
I was just gonna say I don't know why I said speaking of which, because you're literally the one talking about brain stuff today.
Yeah. So I guess we should set the stage there too. Yeah. So Laura is going to focus on the physical healing surrounding medicinal plants. And that's what we're talking about today, is the medicinal plants and just how people have, like we said, always gone to nature historically to look for fixes for various things. So Laura's going to focus on physical, and I'm going to go ahead and focus on mental benefits that people have historically gone to.
Right, because we haven't always had pharmaceuticals, so until pretty recently.
Yeah, very recently.
So we definitely had to use what we had before. And I tried to find, so for all of mine have traditional uses, and then I have some like scientifically proven. I use journals to find my information.
So. The professional side of we have degrees, which is.
Yeah. Although I did come up against a whole bunch of paywalls, which I was not happy about.
I hate that. Which, I mean, for the record, this is a thing, and I've talked to so many people that have published stuff before. If you genuinely do reach out to them, that's normally, you know what, like they always do. So if you're ever, like, go to Google Scholar, if you're looking for peer-reviewed information, Google Scholar, and then you can find, you know, whatever information you're looking for.
Just email them.
Just email them at their contact info and say, like, hey, would you mind? And 9 times out of 10, they're fine, because it's not like they're getting kickbacks for they're being published wherever. Yeah. It's just where they're published at. All right. Even though you don't have anything that helps melt the mind, do you want to go ahead and start then?
Sure. So I had a whole bunch on my list, and then there were some that I was like, okay, I'm not going to cover this because everybody already knows about them, such as aloe. I'm not covering that. Echinacea, a lot of people know about, like purple moonflower, and then I really was going to do chamomile, but also everybody knows about that one. So,
is it chamomile or chamomile?
Oh, I don't know.
Or is this like a pecan thing?
It maybe. I'm hoping so. Somebody can please correct us.
For once, it might be you that pronounces something incorrectly over me.
That wouldn't surprise me. There are a couple words I say that are really weird. Okay. So we're gonna start with sage.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, because I think, I think nowadays a lot of people think of sage as being either something you put in food or smudging.
I was going to say smudging. I was going to say smudging.
And so neither of which I'm going to talk about. So just a little bit of background. Sage is the largest member of the mint family, which I was like, I did not know it was in that family.
We both have the same reaction.
And there are about 900 species of sage. I thought sage was just one thing.
Jeez, me too.
It's not.
I mean, I guess that makes sense, though, that it's not just one single plant.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Many are native to the Mediterranean, but there are also ones all over the world, including here in the United States. So what's in it? Well, common sage has the highest amount of essential oils of all of the different sage species. So I think most people are talking about common sage when they're doing things. And then it also has what's called secondary metabolites in it. And you're probably thinking, like, what the heck is that? So a secondary metabolite are things that a plant produces but doesn't need for growth, development, or reproduction. So it's just like bonuses.
Okay,
And it's a whole bunch. A lot of these articles talk about flavonoids, which is a type of fat.
Yeah.
So it's got a whole bunch of them in it. So how is it used? Mainly in teas and oils.
Okay.
And
that makes sense. Teas for sure makes sense to me.
Yeah, a lot of tea, like a lot. You'll see a very common theme here of teas.
Yeah. Which but again, that does make sense though, because for even for physical healing, like you can make a salve
for the most point.
Yeah, you can make a salve with it, but it's not going to be maybe quite as effective.
Yeah. So traditionally, it has been used for the following: digestive problems, circulation and heart issues, bronchitis, cough, asthma, angina, mouth and throat inflammation, depression, excessive sweating, skin diseases, lost and declining mental function, diabetes, abdominal pain, and indigestion.
Jeez.
Yeah, so people have used it for a lot of things. Well,
bring on the sage.
What's actually legit? So, like I said, most of what I found has been from journals. But it's maybe just one. All of these plants are not highly researched for medicinal use. It's just not a common thing,
and that's
researching.
What I found too. Like, there are several studies, but even whenever I say several, it's not as common to find these as, let's just say, mice behavior. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's literally like one study for some of these things.
Yeah.
And so we can't, with any, like, most websites will say this is not conclusive. That's not enough.
Yeah.
But here's some stuff that we've at least have a pretty decent idea about. We do know that it is an antioxidant. And antioxidants protect the body from certain damages that happen over time that can lead to diabetes, heart disease, cancer, brain dysfunction, weakened immune system, yada yada. So there was a study done with the tea that shows that liver antioxidant levels did improve. So definitely an antioxidant. There have been some indications that it is an anti-inflammatory.
Okay.
That it is an antibacterial, specifically for killing food-spoiling bacteria and bacteria in the mouth. Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know why. Yeah,
that's a lot of very specific.
Like mouth bacteria.
I wonder if that's because it's easier to test.
I don't know.
Because you can always just take a mouth, you know what I mean? Like, they're like, it's probably some graduate student that's like, I need to get published. What's easy? Mouth swab.
Yeah. Swab the mouth. Couldn't kill it. It protects cells and neurons by, like, coating their sheaths. Mm-hmm. It has insulin-like activity, nothing crazy. But one study found that it was as effective as metformin, which is a currently used medication for treating type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
So that's pretty, I mean, like, if you're paying for that medication, sage is just as effective, apparently.
Huh.
It is known to be it's believed to be anti-cancer because there are some species that it can inhibit or kill cancer cells. It can lower your bad and improve good cholesterol.
Okay.
It can help reduce body weight and obesity. It seems to be effective in alleviating hot flashes during menopause. Good for
which I'm sure could be pretty beneficial to those who suffer from it.
It can be anti-diarrheal. And then leading into yours, sage has been shown to improve memory, cognition, and mood. Which makes it excellent. So this specific plant is being studied for what it can do for dementia. Because all three of those are tied together.
I have several of those, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So with all of my plants that I'm going to be talking about, I just want to end with a warning that I'm not encouraging anyone to use this medicinally. I am simply putting the information out there because, like anything that you put into your body at all, it can go horribly wrong if you do it wrong.
Yes,
so here's the information. Do with it what you will.
Perfect. That was a good one. That was a really good one. Again, normally I can pretty much predict kind of the ones that you're going to pick, but that I wasn't sure, but I definitely didn't see sage. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. All right. That was a really good one. So moving on to mine then. And I think this is the one that Kim said you had also picked. whenever she was reviewing this?
Yes.
Well, I think so, because I have two. I don't remember. Anyway.
I don't know. She just asked if I really needed the one, and I said, no, I don't. I was going to get it anyway.
Well, because I know you picked like a bajillion, and I had 3, because I was like, I like to talk longer about shorter things than like a ton of quick ones. So the first medicinal plant that I'm going to focus on, quite literally the oldest one, because it's the oldest tree in the world, and that's the ginkgo tree.
That's the one I was thinking about, because there are physical things that ginkgo can do.
There are tons of physical things. So originating in China, standing about 100 feet tall and 8 feet in diameter, this tree, right? Yeah, it's a lot bigger than what I thought it was.
Right, because here in America, you see ginkgo trees in like downtown, and none of them are big.
Yeah, because they're decorative, but they date back to the age of dinosaurs, and you can find fossils of them and things. It's a pretty popular plant. And if you listen to our fossil episode, you know anything with the fossils and all that, it's pretty cool. If you haven't yet listened to the fossils one, I thought it was quite interesting.
Yeah.
So once found surrounding Chinese and Japanese temples, this tree can be found all around the world now as a popular ornamental tree, which is naturally antifungal and anti-insect. So it's fungicide, insecticide, I guess, free. So that's why a lot of the times they plant them in downtown, because even though they're not like a prominent shade tree, because they don't have to worry about fungus and insects all over them. It's pretty common.
Well, better than a Bradford pear, so.
Right? Kill all the Bradford pears. That needs to be on a t-shirt we make. Yeah. Kill the Bradford pears.
It's just someone holding an axe.
Yeah, right. That's actually a really good idea. Bradford pears, don't plant them.
We could sell that at native plant sales.
Oh, you totally could, and people would have been bored. Yeah. Man, that's a good business idea. All right, we got to add that to our list.
And we got to, what do we say? We're trademarking it. Trademark!
Hurry up, quick! Kill the Bradford pears! All right, so with the ginkgo, though, they do hold very low economic value, like regarding lumber and things like that. The tree really is not sought out for anything other than decorative. However, because of some more traditional healing aspect of ginkgo and the natural fungicide insecticide, like I said, it is becoming a pretty popular decorative tree to have. So, like we said earlier, I'm going to be talking about the mental health benefits. And so what are these? 2 of the most promising and beneficial is possibly treating for dementia and Alzheimer's.
That makes sense. I think that's how I heard this. Ginkgo has been talked about for a really long time, because I remember learning about ginkgo, as a tween.
Yeah, again though, I mean, since if it's the oldest tree, you know what I mean? Like, it's been around for ages and ages.
I just think it took a while for probably it to get to the Western culture.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah. As most things.
Yeah.
But there are other remedies for it, which is used for anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, helps with blood flow to the brain, and ADHD.
Wow.
Yeah, and there are plenty more situations that ginkgo is used in, like Laura said earlier, but since Laura was focusing on the physical aspects, I was trying to go ahead and stay within the mental aspects healing, so that's all I'm going to be talking about. So, how does such an old plant do so? What is it? Why does it have those medicinal capabilities? So there have been plenty of studies, and like I said, plenty is relative to medicinal.
And so many studies are most scientists are poo-poo,
Yeah, right? Yeah.
It's not a good study.
No, but they're proving it to show that there's no evidence for it. I feel like they're already most of the time they're already going into it with an agenda.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I guess when plants have been around for as long as ginkgo, people eventually do want to study it. I mean, or it's just
you'd think if you knew about a plant that had been around since before human beings and all that kind of stuff,
and has all this medicinal stuff, you would think more people would be interested.
I want to know if it's true.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so in those studies, they found that the benefits come from high antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, similar to Laura's. There are additional studies that say by increasing blood flow, this, of course, plays a huge role in how neurotransmitters in your brain operate.
That makes sense.
However, with any upside, there is always a flip side to the coin, like with any traditional healing. So in 2008, there was a sizable study done called the GEM study. GEM stands for Ginkgo Evaluation of Memory. So this study followed 3,069 people between the ages of 75 or older for 6 to 7 years, which is that is a pretty significant study.
Yeah.
And although it showed that at that age, so 75 or older, it showed that them taking ginkgo, it had no effects on preventing dementia or Alzheimer's. Many speculated that kind of like a mentality of, well, maybe they need to be taking it sooner kind of thing.
Or, like, are they looking at prevention or treatment once you got it? Because I can definitely see, like, a plant might not be able to hold it off.
Yeah. Could it preventative? And
increase quality of life? Like, yeah.
And this one was more so looking at the onset. But you're already 75. I feel like if you've already
say like dementia and Alzheimer's is usually like it's way earlier.
Yeah, it's way earlier. And this was done 2008. I feel like we know so much more since then. But at the same time, like, they're saying now that you can see signs and symptoms way beforehand. And I feel like you would have to be using this early on.
Well, right.
If you were to.
Talking about their prevention is super different than treating.
Yeah, totally different. Totally different.
Like prevention, you should start like eating ginkgo when you're in your 20s.
Yeah, right.
And like treating.
Kind of like, just like you should be saving for a retirement starting from your 20s because we're all going to be poor by the time we retire. Same concept, folks. Ginkgo. Get your ginkgo. All right.
Ginkgo.
That's also would be another awesome shirt. But it would be pretty easy to just go ahead and stop there and say, oh, you should be taking it sooner. But that study also showed that ginkgo did not reduce high blood pressure, which they thought it would.
That's disappointing.
Yeah, it is. Because remember, like, increased blood flow to the brain was one of the benefits. Right. So while this study was not very promising, a lot of people still hold on to, thousands of years of healing practice using ginkgo.
Oh, I'm sure.
So the takeaway of ginkgo then, while some people swear by it, by taking it, while you're young and it does have extreme benefits, research is still trying to catch up, like we talked about. You figure to really see the long-term benefits, there would be so many factors that go into it. Who has a higher chance of dementia? You would have to give them ginkgo.
So hard to look at. Is it correlation or causation? Because
exactly.
There's a million other things involved. Because it'd be a long-term study, and that's
a very
everything.
Like 20 plus years. And isn't that like the longest study? That was like the longest study ever done was like 20 years. And at least the longest one that has since been published.
I know that there's been some long ones with like child development.
Yeah. This one was studying, I think it was the diets of people in Japan who were living until like they're 120 or something like that. I think that was the right one. Don't quote me, anybody. All right. Anyway, so like we said, to see the kind of those long-term benefits, it would take an insane study with thousands of people. But just like with everything else, any other medicinal things, ups and downs, take your choosing. And there are some side effects with ingesting anything like Laura said. So some side effects of ginkgo include headache, vomiting, diarrhea. This is really off topic, but is it a PA thing? We grew up calling diarrhea the squirts.
Or the runs. I mean,
okay.
I've definitely heard the squirts.
Well, folks, you just got a new word. If you didn't before, the squirts. Nausea, heart palpitations, dizziness, and a rash. So as with anything else, like Laura said, consult with your doctor before you do anything. Yeah. And that's ginkgo.
Cool. Yeah, I've definitely heard a lot about ginkgo over the years because I think it is such a, like, everyone wants to be healed, but nobody wants to lose their memory.
Yeah,
so
gosh.
That's why ginkgo is such a, like, could it be the cure?
Because that is a terrifying thing. And I mean, I'm fortunate enough that we haven't had any family members that have had dementia or Alzheimer's. My husband's aunt had Parkinson's, and with that comes memory, and that was devastating to watch. And but we're out of state too, so we didn't have to see her day in and day out. We just saw huge chunks of time, and that is a very hard thing to go through.
Oh, for sure.
So
my grandfather had Alzheimer's, and it was rough.
Yeah, it's tough. I would never want to see. I mean, same thing like with cancer. I would just never want to see anybody going through that or being close to somebody that has gone through that. More studies need to be done on this stuff to find cures. Come on.
Well, that leads me. So all of the plants that I'm focused on today, this one really surprised me because I know nothing about it. It's turmeric.
Oh yeah, turmeric. Yeah.
I mean, I've heard of it.
It's
and of course
disgusting. Have you eaten it? It's disgusting.
Not plain for sure.
It tastes like like you just licked up the earth. Like, if you had to go lick the earth, that's turmeric. Like,
I couldn't believe. Okay, this one is my most beefy one. This is like chamomile or chamomile level of healing.
Okay.
Sage had like 14 traditional uses. This one has 35.
Okay.
So first of all, a little bit of background. It's been used for 4,000 years.
Wow.
Since Vedic times in India. And so there's an Indian system of holistic medicine called Ayurveda. And it's so there's like they refer a lot in Indian traditional medicine to the like Ayurveda writings.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about now. Okay.
So this turmeric is native to the Indian subcontinent and to Southeast Asia. It belongs to the ginger family, so we're talking root. Like, it's a root that you use.
Which is why it tastes like licking the earth.
Yeah.
Just lick the earth.
Like, really, turmeric is the product, but it comes from a tuberous rhizome, and it needs to be processed. And you can find so much information about how to process it and how it used to be done and blah, blah, blah. But one fun fact that I found was traditionally cow dung was involved. Like you'd bury it in cow dung, and something about the ammonia would do stuff to it, and
extra nutrition.
That is now discouraged, but not illegal.
That is discouraged, but not illegal.
I guess where your turmeric is coming from.
Yeah, check your turmeric, folks. Check your turmeric.
So what's in it? At least 100 different components.
Interesting, really.
Yeah. So what's it used for? It's used typically as a powder or a paste. And most of it's ingested. And it has traditionally been used for the following: poisoned foods, anti-inflammatory, rheumatoid arthritis, conjunctivitis, chronic anterior uveitis, actually don't know what that is, skin cancer, smallpox, chickenpox, wound healing, urinary tract infections, liver problems, flatulence, jaundice, menstrual problems and regulation, colic, abdominal pain, loss of appetite, gallbladder issues, colon cancer, inflammatory bowel disease, dispelling worms, cuts, burns, and bruises, hair removal, sunscreen, skin care, allergies, asthma, runny nose, anorexia, cough, sinusitis, sprains, circulation issues, colds, and a sore throat.
So I wonder if turmeric in Indian culture is like, oh, just throw some turmeric in it. Like, if you come home with something wrong, like, do your parents or grandparents just say, oh, just take some turmeric? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like I wonder, because it seems like that's like a catch-all. There's so much there.
Yeah. And so as far as like what's legit, again, it's really hard to like suss out because this is so many different things.
Yeah, right? That's not even like a few things. Do you talk about
focus on?
Because I know I was talking over the mental, benefits of it, but I do know how we found out about turmeric is it's supposed to be like one of those like brain healthy things. You know what I mean? Like helps you think, helps you concentrate kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, so some studies have been saying that it aids in the management of anti-inflammatory. I mean, it seems like with almost all plant, and actually, if you talk about this with anybody who does traditional medicine, like inflammation of your body causes like every
so
problem.
much, yes,
literally all of
so
it.
much, yeah.
So it's an anti-inflammatory. And it aids in arthritis, anxiety, and metabolic syndrome things. So it's got a lot of stuff that it can do, and that has actually been studied. And so we'll put the links to some of this stuff maybe in the description or something. So
in our Discord. Actually get freaking people to the Discord. Please join our Discord. I'm so lonely just sitting in there. Please. Discord.
Yeah. So we can, because again, like if you're really interested in, actually thinking about, taking or using or just want to know more about it, you've got to look it up because these studies are dense and I just can't talk about it forever. But a lot of the studies that were done with this were in populations with people that already had health problems.
Okay.
So, that like brings up legitimacy questions.
Yeah, that's hard because that throws in so many different variables at that point then.
Some are randomized placebo-controlled single-blind pilot. Like, some of them are super well done, and some of them maybe not so much. There are side effects with everything. So, diarrhea, headache, rash, and yellow stool, which totally makes sense because it's also used as a dye.
Yeah.
Like a yellow dye.
Yeah.
And it's what gives curry usually its color.
Yeah. It never comes out either. So if anybody is curious, if you want to dye something yellow, turmeric. If you're cooking, do not get it near anything because it will stain it and it is there forever. I love curry. Like, it's one of my favorite things. Love curry. But yeah, that shit stains everything. Don't splash. Don't splash.
Don't splash the turmeric.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
That it?
Yeah. So I wish I
say
had...
that's it, but that was a lot on turmeric. That was a good one.
Well, what I wish is that I had I wish I could tell you more about the legitimacy of what's true and what's not, but there's so many things to cover. But like what I said is the main ones, the like antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, arthritis, metabolic syndrome stuff.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, because I've heard mostly about it from like one to help you concentrate, one to help you like your brain. So yeah, I would.
But inflammation, if it really is anti-inflammatory, that is probably true. Who knows? Your brain could be inflamed. I don't.
Our neighbors are from India. I think I've talked to you about them before, but I have to ask them one day. I don't know how to bring that up in conversation. Do you guys talk about turmeric a lot? Like, how do I bring that up to be like? Is that like?
I mean, I guess it could be like when
because I'm curious. Like, is that like growing up?
It's always like eat some chicken soup.
Yes. Is it the same? Is it the same thing in India?
Yeah, the cultural equivalent. Yeah, that would be interesting to know.
Yeah, to really know. Because I feel like that's all the things you described, I feel like would be a parent's remedy of like, just go take some turmeric. You'll be fine.
Yeah, or put a paste of it.
Yeah, right.
It will dye you yellow.
Yeah,
so.
Permanently. Alrighty, so the second one that I'm going to talk about is a little bit of a lengthier one. And it is pretty common when exploring alternative plant-based mental health solutions. And so while it is somewhat controversial, and we'll get into that a little bit later, I could not do this episode justice if I didn't talk about ayahuasca.
Yeah.
So
Which we brought up long ago. What was that episode that we were talking about where I brought up the scientist who did ayahuasca? Plant sentience.
Oh, plant sentience. Yeah.
She
yes, that's right.
Ayahuasca yeah.
And I think we said back then, we're going to have to do an episode and include that in it.
I think so.
Well, here it is, folks. Ayahuasca. It's really good. If you don't know, if you're trying to Google this, it's spelled Ayahuasca. And of course, that's like the Americanized version of it because I'll get into that in a minute here. All right. So ayahuasca is a brew that comes from the chacruna leaf, chapragna vine, and ayahuasca vine, and an assorted mixture of plants. Individuals that drink the liquid have extremely powerful psychoactive experiences. Dating back
for those of you that are wondering. Yeah.
Sometimes. So dating back to about 1,000 years ago, throughout the Amazon basin, this has been used. Ayahuasca has been used by shamans for both healing and ritualistic purposes. The traditional ingredients, from what I can find, are really dependent upon, the purpose for drinking the brew, whether it is healing or ritualistic.
That makes sense.
As well as regional differences. Obviously, the Amazon's a pretty big place with a lot of diversity, so of course, ingredients vary by where plants are simply available. So an article from Psychology Today describes the feeling of drinking ayahuasca as the psychedelic effects of ayahuasca include visual and auditory hallucinations, the mixing of sensory modalities. Yeah, the psychological introspection that may lead to great elation, fear, or the sense of emulation. The visual hallucinations have been reported to begin with an intense light show, swerving in and out of one's field of vision. Regardless of whether their eyes are closed or open, these visuals are persistent and eventually turn to images from like the images can range from like gods, snakes, anything else imaginable. Though many seek ayahuasca to treat a variety of mental health issues, the experience is often unique, very, very unique to the individual.
I think a lot of people would say that about most drugs in general.
Exactly. But all of that, it just sounds, and I've seen videos and documentaries on it, it sounds and looks intense.
I was just going to say intense would be the for sure word that I would use.
Yeah.
Intense.
Yes. And when they say the experience is unique to the individual, like it genuinely is. While some people may have like happy or related experiences and fine, the same person that's coming for treatment could, seeking the same cure or treatment could have the complete opposite effect. Now I'm saying people like it's like several people. Historically, ayahuasca, again, has been used traditionally by various indigenous throughout the Amazon basin. Then here come white people. Tell us all the time. Here come the white people. So in about the 16th century, I think it was Spanish missionaries came down to the Amazon basin, and they were completely against it, calling it the work of the devil.
Of course.
But I also will have to say, although that was the reason for everything, it's the work of the devil. Think about going down there and seeing somebody going through that, and just Google ayahuasca or YouTube. They probably
thought they were possessed.
Exactly. So the everything mentally that's like going on, plus the side effects that it causes, I'm going to talk about here in a second. And the fact that they have no idea what like psychoactive medicines or drugs. I can't imagine how terrifying that would be for those people to come and be like, what is happening? They definitely would be possessed. But over time, though, religions have started to adopt ayahuasca, and whole churches have now formed around the use of ayahuasca.
That does not surprise me either.
Not any Christian churches that I know. They just kept saying like churches were forming. So I'm not sure. I didn't go down that rabbit hole of like what do these people believe and things like that. So anyway, so what would one be wanting to use ayahuasca for? This really does vary person to person. However, there are some major reasons that currently have caused people to go through this experience. Traditionally, cultures do use it for, like I said, ritualistic, but it can be also consumed socially as friends, which is crazy that it was like used to be used as like a social bonding. Yeah, right. And like what you said, the lady who studied the plants, it was also used to learn more about the natural environment, and even a use or mechanism to visit friends and family who are far away or who have passed.
Yeah, I can see that as being a thing.
Yeah. So in today's culture, though, it is often used by people who seek a way to open their minds or heal from past traumas. And the trauma part of it really seems to be the going trend with everything.
Yeah. That's from what I've heard or who I've talked to about this. It seems like it's either trauma or like debilitating mental, like,
yes, like
anxiety, depression, things like that.
And those are the current ones. So it could be like the loss of a loved one that you just haven't not been able to cope with, treatment resistant depression or anxiety, addiction, and PTSD, among many other medical conditions. Yep, I've seen a lot of documentaries on using this for PTSD, which is, I've seen some truly, truly sad ones about people who have, because it is psychoactive. And so, your brain is constantly moving. And even while you're on these drugs, or this ayahuasca, you're going to see, it's almost like dreams. You know what I mean? Like, it's hallucinations. You can't control it, but it's going to be filtering up things that are in your brain. So
right, it's a way of it's a type of therapy, psychoactive therapy. Yeah, I just cannot imagine those that have PTSD.
I mean, anybody going through this, you're insanely brave, but those going through with PTSD is just, that's a whole other level of bravery for me. So again, like we said, it typically seems to originate in past trauma that they seek treatment for, almost like something they need to confront, and this can help them confront it, just in a very, very intense way. So what's the science behind it? It turns out quite a bit. As it's become more popular now around the world, it just keeps being studied more and more. So some of this is some of the positive aspects of it are due to the active ingredients DMT and beta carbolines, which have been shown to exhibit neuroprotective and restorative qualities. Okay. It's kind of like what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Beta carbolines and ayahuasca has also been seen to show anti-inflammatory, again, neuroprotective and memory boosting effects in test tube and animal studies, which again, I don't know what animals they gave ayahuasca to, but dang, that might be that poor animal.
That would be some crazy animal research.
Right? Watching to see what animals hopefully it's not like a chimp or something, because that would be terrifying.
Well, and also for them.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you're the researcher watching them. I can't, because they have no idea what's going on.
Right. That seems, man.
At least the human has chosen to do this. You know what I mean?
Involved.
Yeah. So the positive side effects of those DMT and beta carbolines were shown in a study of 57 people that demonstrated that ratings of depression and stress were significantly decreased immediate after the participants consumed ayahuasca, and then they later did another test with them and showed that the effects were still significantly positive 4 weeks following the ceremony.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it is pretty promising. And really, there is a ton of research out there on ayahuasca. Honestly, way more than I'd originally thought. I thought, again, this was like one of those things that people know about, but it is actually heavily researched, more so in Europe than here.
I think I'm wondering, as we're talking, I'm wondering if the difference is, okay, hear me out. What if, pharmaceutical companies make a lot of money and have a lot of influence.
Yes.
So, of course, they wouldn't want traditional medicines to ever even be used because...
Yeah, they're out of a job.
Business. So for mine, you could, dismiss all of these physical things.
Mm-hmm.
But with something like therapy, I feel like there isn't enough, like that is more appealing and less of an issue for pharmaceutical companies. Maybe.
I know it's a lot harder here in the States to get anything. Mental health treatment. It's nearly impossible. The steps you have to go through to get any sort of help is a nightmare. And for anybody who's trying to get help, like, that's just counterproductive. And so, we'll get into that in a second. So anyway, tons of research. And there is a lot of science to back this up. So again, some people have really, really bad experiences. Again, word to the wise, like any treatment for anything, there are side effects. Because you do have such an intense psychoactive experience, it can come with intense side effects too, which is why you should never ever do any of this one, especially this one, without an experienced shaman or someone who's trained to use it. And just like the normal side effects of ayahuasca include vomiting, diarrhea, paranoia, and panic. And that normalcy is like, yeah, you're going to have this side effect too. Like, yeah, you might be healed, but you're also going to have vomiting, diarrhea, paranoia, and probably panic. It obviously can interact negatively with prescriptions, and there are some medical conditions like schizophrenia where they just flat out tell you that absolutely not, like, no, you cannot do it.
Any psychoactive, they say, like, do not do a psychoactive because a psychoactive is meant to pull you out of your own like ego, and you're already out of your own ego
with schizophrenia. Yeah.
Whereas depression and anxiety, you're stuck inside worrying about yourself. And so that's why it
helps you get out. Yeah, helps you get out. So if you're thinking about taking ayahuasca, be cautious. Speak to a doctor. Speak to professionals that deal with this stuff before you even attempt any of it. And that's ayahuasca. I would say, like, for me, the hard part about ayahuasca is like the people who seek that sort of treatment are so, I don't want to say desperate, but like, it's so severe that they're willing.
There's a lot of risk involved. Yeah,
there's a lot of risk involved. I tried a lot
of things first before I tried ayahuasca
because how intense it is. But some people, like, they have tried everything, and like, they're willing to go to that length to seek and that's why for me it breaks my heart. Like, I mean, anybody that is that severe that they can't get help, that they're going. And again, I'm a firm believer that there's so much in this world that can heal us that we don't even know about. But this one is just a very, very intense version. And for me, it's really, I just can't imagine what these people are going through, that they're okay with, like, experiencing such intense hallucinations. So go Google it. Again, it's, let me find the spelling of it here. It's AYAHAUSCA. Because whenever we say intense, I really think you just need to see a video of somebody using this stuff to fully understand what we mean by intense.
I feel like it's more intense than when you talk about psychedelic mushrooms.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yes.
Because it has very similar treatment processes and doing psychoactive therapy, but I think that psychedelic mushrooms are less intense than the ayahuasca experience.
By far. I feel like with mushrooms, you can still somewhat chill out, where I feel like ayahuasca, like, some people do have a really great experience, and it's like a easy thing for them to, they face, whatever's going on and help them out, because it is, like you said, like more of a therapy than a cure. But yeah, the journey to get there, it's intense. So look it up. There's tons of documentaries on it that they've done it. But yeah, just look it up. It's fascinating, but also so heartbreaking that somebody needs to go through that.
Yeah.
So that's my second one.
All right. So my next one is cinchona.
Which I don't think I've heard of this one.
This might be ringing a bell. It is what you've heard about is cinchona bark. So a little bit of background is that it's a large shrub or small tree that's native to South America. It's also known as Jesuit's bark, Jesuit's powder, or Peruvian bark.
I honestly don't think I've heard of this one ever.
I think you will once I get a little further in.
Okay.
It was introduced to Jesuit priests, that's a sect of Catholicism, by native peoples when they came to South America. And so it took a while for cinchona bark and to take off in Protestant England. Everywhere else in Europe, they were on board, but in Protestant England, it was labeled as papal poison.
Papal poison.
I love. European colonists used tons of it and tried to grow it literally all over the world. It decimated the populations. So there's serious genetic consequences. Like, none of these plants are as potent as they used to be, and like, there just aren't as many. And it is this plant. I wanted to make sure I hit this because this plant is credited with allowing the expansion of the British Empire. Like, the British Empire would not have been as large as it was, and probably several other empires without this tree.
I'm very interested now.
So what's in it? lots of alkaloids, which is an organic compound that can have physiological effects on humans. So that's either a medicine or a poison, but specifically does something to people. And its most beneficial alkaloid is quinine.
Okay.
So quinine, what's it used for? Its bark is used as tinctures, powders, and tonics. And its traditional uses is that it has, historians and scientists really argue over whether native peoples knew about its curative properties or not, but most people say, of course they did. And that it was used to treat a variety of fevers. Well, what made it take off and what makes cinchona bark responsible for the expansion of the British Empire is that it treats malaria.
Interesting. Okay.
So,
I mean, that makes sense,
you might have heard of this, especially with this past year with COVID-19 and talking about treatments for it. Quinine was brought up.
Okay, yeah.
So malaria, it's been used in the treatment of malaria since the mid-1600s by European settlers and long before that by native peoples. It can be given as a preventative and used to treat once you've gotten it. Now we use artificial antimalarials, but it's expensive, and with the insane amount of people dying from malaria, so here's a horrifying statistic. As of 2006, the statistic is, pretty old. A child dies every 30 seconds from malaria.
Holy crap!
Quinine is the second and sometimes first choice in many areas of the world still.
Jeez.
Quinine's also used in pharmaceutical medicines that are such as flu medicines, cold medicines, and rheumatism medicines. It can be used to treat cardiac arrhythmia. It reduces obesity, possibly anti-cancer, possibly antibiotic, possibly antiparasitic, which makes sense because malaria is a parasite.
Yep.
And anti-inflammatory, which is very important for the treatment of malaria. Because essentially, you're getting this fever because everything in you is reacting to this
Wigging
parasite.
Out. Yeah. Dang.
It's also
I just had
cramps and arthritis.
I was gonna say, I just had no idea about the death rate. I knew malaria was bad. Whenever I've traveled to Africa, whenever I've traveled, I've had to take, malaria medicine and stuff.
Right.
Because I knew it was, that was one, hey, you cannot skip this one. Yeah. Cannot skip it, but dang.
Yeah, millions of people are still dying. Because and there's so many things written about malaria. It's what they call an arms race between us as species.
But again, it also just goes back to okay, we never, one, we don't have these kind of things here, but at the same time, it's you don't, as an American, you don't worry about these things.
Right. Unless you're traveling. But in any other tropical part of the world, so for those of you who don't know, malaria is transmitted by mosquitoes. So literally, anywhere in the world that has mosquitoes could potentially have malaria. Mm-hmm. Specifically, though, it's most common in the tropics.
Most common in the tropics. But still, again, it's just one of those ones that are just overshadowed.
And it's a lifetime, you get malaria, that's it. You have malaria forever.
Ever. Yep.
And so you'll keep having episodes, which you'll need treatment for. And so we used this bark, we used quinine until about World War II. And that's when the pharmaceutical companies started using artificial quinine. Okay. But like I said, you don't have access to pharmaceuticals in a lot of tropical places around the world. So you're using this bark.
Definitely shouldn't be that way, but continue.
Well, my last thing is, warning, you can OD on quinine.
Oh, really?
So, not necessarily kill you, but definitely cause serious problems. So, just because you don't want malaria, you still can't take too much.
What does it cause? Did you find that? What does an OD look like?
I didn't write it down.
That's fine. I was just curious.
I was saying that it's credited with the British Empire expansion because it allowed, starting from the 1600s, they were using tons of it because they were giving rations to it to every single soldier and every single person who they were sending to the tropics. Yeah. So it saved countless lives.
Wow.
And allowed them to be able to go to places like India and South America and things like that and not have to worry about getting malaria. So if they hadn't had that, who knows what the world would look like today? That is a literal world-changing plant.
No, that is. That really is. Wow. That was really a fun one. Was that all you had for that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one. I liked that aspect of it. Had no idea about that. Like, again, like you said, oh, you'll know here, recognize it in a little bit here. And so, yeah, I recognize the word, but I didn't know any of that. Wow.
Right. You just hear quinine, something about malaria, something about maybe COVID treatment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it comes from a bark of a tree.
Wow. Really cool. Alrighty. Well, my last one that I'm going to discuss is a bedtime favorite of many, but often the sleepiness you can feel from this outshines the mental health benefits too. So I'm going to be talking about lavender.
Oh.
So there's documentation of use of lavender for over 2,500 years. The plant has purple flowers, and overall plant height can range from 9 inches to 3 feet. Their natural range originally was northern Africa and the Mediterranean, but now it can be found growing pretty much anywhere in the world. Egyptians used lavender for both perfume and embalming, which I guess makes sense, for embalming, but I never really thought of it, and I did start to look up ancient Egypt embalming methods, but I'll save it for another... Right? Yeah. I am so prone to rabbit holes. That's a good shirt. Prone to rabbit holes.
Rabbit holes. Yeah, I agree. That would be a fan. I need that shirt.
I need that shirt. Prone to rabbit holes. But yeah, we'll definitely have to do it. Somehow we need to mix in Egyptian embalming. Yeah.
Yeah.
So besides the Egyptians, though, the Romans used lavender for cooking, perfumes, and when washing their clothes to make it smell good, which I can imagine was quite the feat because everything smelled. Deodorant. Yeah, everything smelled back then. Lavender was also even used during the Great Plague, as people would tie it to their wrists as they walked around hoping to ward off any sickness, and grave robbers bathed in it, like in a wash that had lavender in it.
Oh my gosh.
And they rarely became infected. So for what it's worth, grave robbers wear lavender? I don't know.
Dead bodies?
Yeah.
Put on lavender? Is
Maybe.
It antibiotic?
Not antibiotic, more so antibacterial. Okay. But a lot of that comes from, like, there's research on it. But again, it's almost like, what was the other one you said? Was that sage, where it was like very particular for what it was?
Oh, yeah. It was like mouth bacteria.
Same thing with lavender. It's like very, very particular on what it can kill and what it can't. So very picky plant.
I also just think that half of it was probably trying to stay safe, and the other half was trying to mask the fact that you smelled like dead bodies because you were freaking busted.
Right.
Like it was illegal.
Why do you smell like death? Well, it's hard to cover up. So I think it's safe to say, though, at this point in history and this point of the episode, that we've all used something lavender at one point or another.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll dive into the mental health benefits of it all really quickly. People seek out lavender to help, again, with anxiety, depression, dementia, and insomnia, along with a long list of physical ailments, too. And I know these are the same, medical conditions that keep coming up, but they are the ones that people tend to seek an alternative treatment for over taking a prescription. So it does kind of make sense. And many people all over the world live daily with those conditions, so it's kind of no wonder that they would want to seek some assistance with managing.
Right.
So lavender's calming effect and one of the main chemical makeups of the flower comes from its main chemical compound linalool, which is found in a lot of different plants, but it has been studied a ton in lavender. And this time, whenever I say it has been studied a ton, I really do mean this one actually has a lot of studies on it. So several studies have found that inhaling the linalool has been shown to lead to it being absorbed through the lungs and then into the bloodstream. From the bloodstream, it could then reach signal-sensing proteins called gamma aminobutyric acid type A, or GABAA receptors in nerve cells.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. GABA. Receptors in nerve cells or neurons in the brain. This then causes an anxiolytic effect or an anti-anxiety effect, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah. So oddly enough, I didn't find too much on the negative side effects of lavender beyond like minor headaches, constipation, and increased appetite.
I can see that because it's a commonly eaten plant too.
It's a very commonly eaten.
It can't be that bad because people eat it a lot.
People eat it a lot. So, I mean, in comparison to many others, honestly, lavender is not too shabby in the fact that, like, let's say if you did have a tea to help you just calm your nerves or something at the end of the day, there's really not a ton of health, side effects that could be bad. Again, always check with your doctor. But this one is a pretty safe because it's so heavily used in soaps, everything.
Yeah, right now I have lavender like bath stuff.
Oh yeah,
just to sit in a bath.
Yeah,
and then my like belly cream for my pregnant belly.
Yeah,
that had lavender in it, and I put it on right before bed.
They do say it's the smell. I mean, and that's what a lot of the research I was reading through. They said that the properties of the smell have far outweighed like anything topical, but a lot of the people find the relief from topical, but they find the relief from the topical because they're smelling it. Yeah, because they're smelling it.
It had like I think the lavender was just for the smell. The rest of it was like beeswax and stuff that will actually help your skin. But yeah, I like the way the lavender smells, but I don't like it the way that it tastes.
I've never actually eaten lavender before. I've never tried it.
To make me sound super fancy, I think the only time I've ever eaten lavender was in lavender scones at a tea house. And I was not a fan.
That does make you sound way fancier. Hello, everyone. I ate lavender scones. Well, I also didn't find any research, like I said, that debunks the use of lavender. I mean, everyone kind of seems to be on the same sense. And like on Laura's side, there really was like a ton of stuff you could use lavender for physical. So we all have to keep in mind, though, that some people do tend to use lavender as like a cure-all for everything. So like with most things, it's definitely not a cure-all or a magic bullet. It's more of an aid to assist in symptoms of mental health conditions. Will it cure anxiety, depression, dementia? Probably not, but it will help calm you enough to get a restful night's sleep. And again, like with everything else, please consult your doctor prior to use.
This whole episode, and I've always, again, like you were saying, like that healing can be found. I firmly believe that nature, I mean, it only makes sense.
It only makes sense.
Along with everything else in the world.
Yep.
So there must be something out there to fix everything.
Yeah.
We just haven't either found it, or we found it and haven't accepted it, or we just killed it before we ever found it. That's what I was going to say.
Or we've killed it all. So one or the other.
So depressing and terrifying
to
think about.
It is. Well,
that's
folks.
That's why we need to have conservation, folks. Conservation, at least so that we can continue to live.
At least you took that on a high note, because I was ready to end it with, well, we probably just killed all of our cures. Like, well, folks, that's today's episode. Oh, goodness. Way to end on a high note. Conserve, everybody. Conserve. So, if you don't follow us on social media, please go do it on FTLON. And in the hyperlink, I know for Instagram, you'll see the Discord on there. Please join me so I'm not sitting in there alone.
And we also...
I was like, you have something. You're like pointing at me. I was like, what else?
Yeah, it's the... we need ideas from our listeners.
Yes, so we have an episode where we'd like to know what you guys want us to talk about. And so please send us your ideas so that we can figure out what you guys want to hear, and we'll do an episode.
Right. We'll have a shout out, like we'll have a call out for it probably on our social media platforms.
Yeah.
You can also go into Discord and let us know what you want to know. We do actually have an email that you could send something to.
That's like 100 characters long.
I would not.
It'd be way easier. Yeah, way easier to send us on Discord or social media rather than our 100 character long. Again, we need to think through some of these names and acronyms a little bit more before we just settle on them. But anyway, we will talk to you guys next week, and that's it. So go over to social media, make sure you join our Discord, and try some plants, but speak to your doctor first.
Okay, talk to you guys next week.